Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, and yes, it's another PlayStation 5 / Spider-Man video, because with both things having the exact same embargo, it just means I've crammed my little arse off trying to get through as much stuff as possible. And I've obviously got a whole ton to say about both the PlayStation 5 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, I would recommend my PlayStation 5 review. That thing is like 20 odd minutes long or whatever, and is a full-on deep dive on the system itself. As for Spider-Man, there's also the Spider-Man Miles Morales review itself as a separate video, and a pointless details that'll blow you away thing. And for now, I thought we'd delve into various tips and tricks that the game doesn't tell you, just like I did back in 2018 with that original game. So yes, I've been playing an absolute ton of this game, and there's so much nuance to it the more that you play. I want to break these things down. Hopefully you can find your own tips and tricks, things to suggest down in the comments, because I'm sure that the following things are only really the tip of the Spidey iceberg. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and this is Spider-Man Miles Morales, 13 tips and tricks the game doesn't tell you. Number 13, suspended enemies can be turned into web bombs. Now, this only works if you've done the perch takedown, where you take someone down after standing on like a bar or something else on an interior, and you leave an enemy hanging, like literally dangling below you. If you move away from them a little bit, you'll see an L1 and R1 prompt hanging above them. And all you want to do is wait until someone else is underneath them, do the L1, R1 thing, and that person that was previously webbed up above will just fall down and explode in a big old, like I said, explosion of webs, taking out whoever's nearby, or even if they're slightly far away, making them fall back and get webbed against a nearby wall. It's super handy, especially if you're going for any of the trophies that require you to be in enemy base without being spotted. Total web bombs all day long. Number 12, target time capsules for easy ability tokens. If you're anything like me and you want to do the 100% completion, then you're going to need to unlock every last one of the suits and the ability upgrades and the skills and everything else. That means an absolute shed load of ability tokens. Now, these are usually doled out with random crimes or just getting through the story or doing the side missions as well. However, I found in like going for 100% completion and getting the platinum, that the easiest way to farm ability tokens is to just hoover up all of the time capsules. You get 3 tokens for each one of the time capsules, and because all you're doing is standing in front of something and pressing triangle, it's one of the fastest ways to just hoover up those tokens and unlock the stuff that you want to get to faster. Number 11, some specific camouflage tips. The new camouflage stuff is brilliant, and there's a couple sort of minor things that I want to point out with it. First up, the game, obviously, when you get camouflage, when you tap up on the D-pad and Miles just disappears, you'll know that you can just sort of wait around and then, get out the line of fire and things like that, take a breather. However, if you keep yourself in camouflage, you can entirely reset any combat encounter and force it to go back into stealth. This will let you do the optional objectives like, take out 3 dudes with a stealth kill or whatever, but if you do this in some story encounters, especially some of the side missions, like when you first rescue Spider-Man the cat, if you just go invisible in that final fight, the game will just let you escape anyway. So some fights you'll have to experiment as you go through the story can literally be bypassed by just putting the camouflage thing on first. That mission that I just mentioned, I found that out on doing New Game Plus, because I guess I already had the camouflage when I went back to that mission, but I have to imagine that it will apply to various other missions that you can take on. You can use it whenever you want. Another reason to go into camouflage is that it's one of the easiest ways to deal with those physics timing abusing heavies, the guys that just punch right through all the other rhythms that we're used to in Spider-Man combat and just keep wailing on you. If you just tap up on the D-pad, disappear, wait until they go back into their unaware state where they get the yellow question mark above their heads, then you can just press triangle and take them out in one hit. That's far more satisfying than trying to gauge exactly how to take them down otherwise. Number 10, hold circle when wall running to take corners at speed. This is something directly across from the 2018 game, but when I was playing through Miles Morales, I didn't see anything that actually pointed out that you could still do this. Basically, when you're holding the right trigger and you're running along a wall and you come to the edge of a building, like the edge of a corner, just hold circle as well, and Miles will stick out a web and swing around that corner, maintaining speed. It's something that the 2018 game pointed out in one of the tutorial tips, and maybe it's in here somewhere, but I just totally missed it. Either way, if you're trying to, book it across the city as fast as possible, start implementing the circle corner thing, and it just looks a hell of a lot sleeker. Number 9, use the Southeast Rocks on base for the 100 times combo trophy. We might end up doing more specific trophy guides and stuff like that, depending on specific ones that are maybe harder to get. And in that vein, I wanted to point out that it took me a long time to get the 100-hit combo trophy, but I did eventually settle into a method of focusing on the southeast rocks on base. The reason I picked this one is because after you start, literally where the checkpoint puts you, right ahead of you is a small box where two guys are firing rifles, and if you just jump down into the middle of there, you can kind of kite all the enemies right into the middle of that, and then just wail on them with splash damage. If you hold L1 and press square and X together, you'll do the ground pound, that is the wider sort of explosion thing, and you also get the move later on that I'm not going to spot necessarily what it is, but you do it with triangle and circle, and if you're doing that while surrounded by tons of guys, your multiplier will just fly up. It's a much easier way to do this, or at least I found that it was anyway, and the only people that really get in the way of that, because hardly any of them can block against such so many splash damage attacks, are just the shielded guys. But for the most part, you can get in amongst that, take their shields off them, and continue to repeat the L1 square X thing. Hopefully this works for you, because it did for me. Number 8, use Venom Dash to close huge distances. The Venom Dash on the ground is just one of the coolest things to do, where Miles just charges at a guy, grabs him, flips him over, and flings him forward. However, if you do this in midair, kind of breaking all physics, Miles can just kick off midair and catch up to whoever you've targeted. It's a great way to get out of the way of enemy fire if there's a rocket coming at you or something like that, and you want to dodge whilst also closing the distance on someone else. Just hit L1 and triangle, aim at someone, and you'll be right after them in a split second. I use this, like I said, to get around any sort of combat encounter faster than just a dodge and then a swing or hitting triangle with a web zip. And I kind of think that it's a quicker way to keep the damage up and, keep charging enemies full of electricity so that you can then throw them into someone else and just keep your combo going in general. Number 7, the PS5's card system is faster than fast travel. This is something that I just realized through faffing around with the PS5 over the course of a few weeks with the game as well. If you hit the PS button to bring up the new sort of PlayStation 5 menu, the game will suggest various cards. The new card system is the whole thing with the PS5. You can read all about it or hear all about it on the PlayStation 5 review. And when you're playing a certain game, these cards will suggest different goals, different challenges, different things that you haven't done yet. And if you go on them, they'll spawn you in the exact place you need to be, rather than going to the fast travel icon and then swinging to where you need to be. I just found, like I said, in regards to chasing 100% completion, chasing a platinum trophy, it was faster to just use the PlayStation menu to bring up a card, pick a challenge that I hadn't done yet, and then beam exactly to that space. Another thing with fast travel is that you actually need to turn fast travel on. I feel like I've mentioned this in a ton of different videos, but I thought it was so cool that the PS5 version of Miles Morales makes you turn fast travel animations on, a direct contrast to how we were playing Spider-Man in 2018, because this game can just load in seconds, and you need to optionally opt in if you want to see those transitional animations of Miles being on the subway. If you just want to zip from place to place, use the PS5's card system to jump into as many missions as you want in as quick succession as possible, then you can do that without having to worry about the game loading an animation. Number 6, unlock essential upgrades at the bottom of the skill screen. Potentially super duper ludicrously obvious, but it took me like half of the story to even realize this. If you go on the skill menu and you look at the various branches for Venom attacks, camouflage, and whatever, it's the ones along the very bottom, the smallest icons at the bottom of the whole screen, that unlock things like being able to do a web point launch or being able to tap X as you land and roll to keep your momentum going. These are things that we unlocked in Spider-Man 2018, but I feel like they were flagged in a way more obvious way. And it's really easy to complete the vast majority of Miles Morales' story without even getting these essential traversal upgrades. Just keep an eye on these things. It's the reason you have to do combat challenges, stealth challenges, and traversal challenges, because they'll auto-unlock as soon as you do those optional challenges. Number 5, you can dismount any perch in style and do a superhero landing. So a couple of quick things that I just wanted to include in here just because they're cool, and because when you're being Spider-Man, you just want to do cool Spidey stuff. So something that was in the 2018 game that is also in here is that the dodge button, circle, is also kind of the dismount in style button, depending on what you're standing on when you press it. If Miles is on the edge of a building, or say if you're sitting on top of a water tower or the edge of a piece of construction equipment or whatever, press a direction and press circle, and you'll do a super cool looking dismount. You can do it from walls as well. I haven't tried it from the ceiling, but you can do it from the vast majority of places, and Miles will just do a really cool twist, a flip, he'll kick his legs out, he'll do something really sweet before landing. In regards to the superhero landing, the classic Iron Man fist to the ground landing that Deadpool took the mick out of, you can do this in the game too. You just need to make sure that you're coming down from a big enough height without catching yourself using a web. If you just let Miles fall an entire 50 stories or whatever, he'll land full on superhero pose, slam his fist into the ground, and all the dust will kick up alongside him. It is cool. Number 4, you can jump over enemies in midair. A couple of quick pointers for this one. I realized that once you jump into the air and you're doing an air combo with square and triangle, and maybe you're dodging with circle, X is also part of your repertoire. Maybe this was the case in 2018 and I just missed it for the last 2 years, but if you press X when you're next to an enemy, you'll kick off them and get some more distance from them, which might help you chain into someone else. It also gets you out the line of fire and just overall opens up your combo possibilities in regards to giving you a slight second to breathe when you're trying to chain something else together. Number 3, use L2 to redirect yourself anywhere. I think this is essential. The more of a high-level play that you get involved in, the more higher difficulty modes and things like that, the more that you want to master the game, you're going to have to get used to reorientating or redirecting yourself in midair. And you can do this either when you're exploring out in the open world, maybe you want to take a corner at speed, or you just want to, turn around and latch onto a different part of a building or zip to a wall or something. If you just hit L2 at any point, you can use that aiming reticle to aim at the sides of buildings or just aim at a wall, then press R2 and you'll zip to that exact point. It's super handy, especially if you're in the middle of a stealth encounter and you want to take a guy out and then zip back up to the roof. Just aim at it, tap R2, and even if you hold L2 as you're initiating the stealth takedown animation, all of that will be in super slow motion, letting you line up the next shot and just get the hell out of there as fast as possible. In terms of combat, I tend to enter encounters using L2 so I can prioritize exactly which enemy I'm going to go after, and if I'm in midair and I don't know exactly who's worth punching next, I'll just hold L2, rotate the camera, maybe scan using R3 while I'm in this super slowed down mode and pick which enemy should be next. This stuff really helps when you're on the higher level encounters, and at least it lets you take a mental breath as to where you're going to go next when there's so much kicking off in every single combat scenario. Number 2, ceiling takedowns are your friend. Now, I kind of forgot that you can even do ceiling takedowns in this game. I forget even doing them in 2018's game. But the original Spider-Man on PS1, the one that was narrated by Stan Lee, that game had you clinging to the ceiling left, right, and center. The camera would go above the world itself and you could look down on all these other enemies. And it encouraged you to sort of, stealthily get through an area or something like that. I haven't thought in that way since those old Spidey games, but you can absolutely play the new one like that too. If you get above a guy when you're on the ceiling, then the reticule above them will change to red. Make sure that they're in a safe place to do a takedown. They're not going to alert everybody. Just click the stick in, scan them, make sure it says safe. Then you can hit square and just bring them off the ground, stick them to the roof, and carry on your merry way. I find that ceiling takedowns are the most low risk of stealth takedowns because you don't need to be directly behind someone. And if you want to be quadruply sure that nothing's going to alert the guards, just put the camouflage on before you stick them to the roof. And number 1, how to do the Spider-Verse animation. Hands down the coolest thing in Spider-Man game history. The second I realized how to do this, and it took me 45 minutes of trying different button combinations, I just giggled to myself like a child because it's so cool. So the first thing to know is that in Spider-Man Miles Morales, there are various new trick animations. You don't do tricks with triangle and circle anymore. You just hold square and then tap in multiple directions. You can do up, left, right, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can unlock by just doing this. However, the Spider-Verse arms behind the head pose, the one from the end of the Spider-Verse movie, which is easily one of the best movies of all time, that is done by holding square, making sure you get enough height, clicking the left stick in, and then tapping up. There's a very specific timing window to this, and you do need to make sure that you're getting the right height. If you end up going into the pirouette thing instead, where Miles grabs his legs and spins instead, you've tapped the analog stick first. You've done it in the wrong order. It's very much square stick, push forward. It's a strange sensibility, but once you get it down, there's a real feel to it, and that's awesome. You can also do it with different directions. If you do hold square, click the stick, and then move it left or right, Spidey will go into like a resting pose instead. If you press down, he'll get his phone out and just check his phone in midair. Super cool. If you just tap up without double tapping it, then he'll go into this pose called the Thinker, where he's just free falling, stroking his chin. You have to tap up again to get him to go into the Spider-Verse pose. Again, it's quite hard to get down, but I did manage it, and the trick is all in the timing. It's all in getting enough height and then getting the timing. You can see me doing it here, and once I managed to get it down, I was doing it over and over and over again, and it's such a cool reward for the amount of time that it takes to finally perfect all of the timing around it. So those have been various tips and tricks the game doesn't tell you for Spider-Man Miles Morales. Hopefully you found a whole bunch yourself that you can share down in the comments. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.